What is going on, Hive Warriors? It's your boy Edward V, and today we're going to talk about 5 intermittent fasting tips that'll help you burn fat faster. Now, I know it's crunch time. It's getting to crunch time. They're talking about reopening everything. You might have to go back to work. You're going to go back into civilization, and you're probably thinking to yourself, wait, I'm nowhere near where I want to be. Well, I'm going to go ahead and help you out with these 5 tips that can help you, well, like I said, burn fat faster. Now let's go ahead and break it down in this video. Stay tuned. Before we start, guys, the Fledge Fitness jump ropes are still out of stock. The jump ropes sold out incredibly fast, faster than we could have predicted. But for the first time ever, the jump ropes are on pre-order. So if you want to lock yours in, it will be a guaranteed jump rope for you as soon as we restock. The Fledge Fitness team is shooting for a mid-June release, so you could expect your jump rope around that time frame. You can't go wrong with the Fledge Fitness jump rope, only $16.50. If you want to go ahead and pre-order yours, you can click on the top right hand corner, or the link will be down in the description below. Now let's go ahead and jump right into the video. Okay, let's jump right into the tips. The first tip to help you burn fat faster with intermittent fasting is something that I want to call hormonal behavioral deflection. And a lot of people don't even know that this is happening. They basically make everything a black and white scenario. If you want to eat, you just feel hungry, so you eat. You don't try to peek under the hood of what's going on in your body, especially hormonally, that's causing you to want to eat. Now, this is important because this will allow you to create a rhythm when you are in a very trying time like this quarantine, in which you may be stuck at home the entire day and have full access to food at any given moment. You have to implement hormonal behavioral deflection. So what is this hormonal behavioral deflection? It is simply training your body to understand when it will eat and when it won't eat. If you want to implement an intermittent fasting protocol, it will help you. It will help you flip the switch to do that metabolic switchover, which will help you burn body fat and also help you compartmentalize your food so that you can have more caloric control and increase your chances of being at a caloric deficit. So your body wants you to eat. Your body wants to store energy. Your body wants to consume energy. It's much better to consume energy than to release energy for your body, because your body just wants to keep you alive. That's the whole point. So the more, the better for your body. So if you are trying to structure any type of intermittent fasting protocol within any type of time frame, you have to ensure that whenever you get any hunger cues during the times that you are outside of your window, that you proactively ensure that you do not eat. When you continue to do this, even though it seems very hard at first, after the second or third or fourth or fifth day, your body will become acclimated to that and will understand that you simply don't want to eat during those time frames, which you will strategically work out to be outside of your eating window. This then in turn will make your body release ghrelin, the hunger hormone, less often, and definitely not outside of your eating window. You will actually start to see that your body will become hungry, or it will send the hunger cues during the times that you normally break your fast, and then will cease any hunger cues after the times that you break your fast. This is incredibly important, especially now, because you don't have much in the way of distractions, considering the fact that you are home a lot. So implement hormonal behavioral deflection so that you can ensure that you create a sort of training system for your body so that you don't eat outside of your eating window, thus sticking to your intermittent fasting plan and making fat loss much faster for you. Because every time you break your intermittent fasting protocol, it can lead to you going crazy with eating because you feel that you've already messed up for the day. So it is somewhat critical for your success that you maintain the status quo within your intermittent fasting regimen. Now let's go ahead and move on to tip number 2. Choosing the best fasting length for you. This does not mean fast for longer, and this does not mean to fast for shorter time frames. This simply means to choose the best that fits within the puzzle piece of your life and also within what you're capable of doing. Because if you encounter a derailment, that is much worse than being able to fast for a longer period of time for a short time frame. You don't want to do 23 hours of fasting for 4 days but then completely fall off. You are much better off if you can do 16 hours a day of fasting for months at a time, as opposed to shooting for the moon and falling very, very short. This is important because the yo-yo process of success, failure is going to make you basically stay in the same place and sometimes even fall a little bit behind. If you want to burn fat faster, you want to ensure that you are setting up the best platform for you to be successful. Many people think that the best time is always the longest time. When it comes to being in a fasted state and having your body do that metabolic switchover and be in the switchover for a longer period of time where your body is utilizing body fat, yes, there is an element that can be beneficial, but adherence is the most important thing. So if you're doing something and you just know that this is too difficult or just too over the top for you and you're not going to be able to just continuously do this, then try to adjust your window to the times that make sense for you. Now let's go ahead and jump into tip number 3. Tip number 3 is maintaining muscle. Your muscle is extremely important. I don't need to say how important it is because it is very important. Your body actually works better. It's more thermogenic when you have muscle on your body. Think about it. Muscles require daily calories. The more muscles you have, the more daily calories your muscles will require. That means your basal metabolic rate is burning more simply because you have more muscle on you. Your weight requires calorie thermogenesis. So if you weigh more because of muscle, it is going to pull from a lot of your calorie intake for the day, which means that being at a caloric deficit, an overall caloric deficit, not simply the caloric deficit of selecting the amount of foods that you're going to eat or how much you're going to eat, but internally on how much you're outputting. The overall caloric balance will be in your favor if you have things in your body that are working for you. And one of the reasons why I bring this up is because in this situation where we are now, many people will neglect their muscles. Because why? Let me just work on cardio and eat right. I'll be fine. But it's tougher because you are more isolated, which means your calorie output is less. You aren't doing as much. Just doing a cardio session during the day is not going to elevate your calorie burn. Remember, before this quarantine situation, you were more out and about. You were going to work. You were working at work. You were doing a lot of movement. But now you're pretty much stuck at home for long periods of time. So you want to add weapons to your arsenal to help you burn more calories. If you completely neglect your muscles and don't work on your muscles at all and just focus on cardio because you're just targeting calorie burn, you're basically working harder as opposed to smarter. Make sure that you are at least retaining. I understand many of you may not have weights that can allow you to get hypertrophy to start building muscle or to continuously build muscle, but at least do some push-ups, do some crunches, do some pull-ups if you have a pull-up bar or if you have a location where you can do pull-ups. Some dips. Make sure that you're doing some calisthenics so that you can at least maintain what you have so that that can work with you as you're burning fat. So at least it's helping you with your caloric control. Now let's go ahead and jump to number 4, protein consumption. Now I touch on this a lot in many of my videos because my favorite macronutrient to consume, it's not fats and definitely it's not carbs, it's protein. Why? Because it's what you want to call a double whammy. Not only does protein help you retain the muscle that you have or even help you definitely build the hypertrophy because of the enhanced protein synthesis that comes from consuming proteins, it's also the most thermogenic of all of the macronutrients. It's over 30% more thermogenic than carbohydrates and fats. So that means the more protein you're consuming, the more energy it will take to actually digest your food. So if your food is just full of carbohydrates and very minimal protein, you can have the same amount of calories and actually burn less calories over time in a compounding form. Remember, it's not just calories per day, it's calories per week, calories per month. These things compound on top of each other. So if your calorie intake is 2,000, but it's predominantly carbohydrates, you're going to be burning less for the same amount of calorie intake. But if your macronutrient input is more protein than all the other macronutrients and still 2,000 calories, you're going to be burning more calories per meal. It will definitely help you get the best bang for your caloric buck. Now let's go ahead and talk about the last tip. Tip number 5, eating earlier in the day. When intermittent fasting, studies are showing us time and time again that the earlier you eat, the better, as you connect it with your circadian rhythm. And eating later in the day can offset your body, as you will be still carrying a lot of the glucose and carbohydrates when you're going to sleep. But before you click off and say, well, I don't want to, eat in the morning. I'm not a morning eater. Please understand that eating earlier rather than later does not necessarily mean eating bright and early when the sun comes up. It simply means eating from a time frame of anywhere around 8 all the way to 4 p.m. You don't have to eat at 8. You can eat starting at 2 and end at 4. Or you can eat starting at 12 and end at 4. Or starting at 12 and end at 3. Whatever you want to do, start eating at lunchtime. When they do early time restricted feeding, the studies go as far as around 4 p.m. And when they tested early time restricted feeding versus nighttime, the only time they start to see a detriment is when the person eats very, very late, something like 10 or 11 o'clock. So if you want to eat starting at 12 as opposed to starting at 8 in the morning, and that's going to be your sweet spot, go ahead and do it. You're still within the early time restricted feeding window. And that's it, guys. Those are the top 5 intermittent fasting tips that will help you burn fat faster, especially in the situation that we're currently in. Hey, before you know it, many things are going to start going back to normal. And if you want to be ready for it, or if you want to at least have a head start, hopefully you can go ahead and follow these tips, and hopefully they can help you succeed. Now, of course, as always, guys, I want to thank my patrons from my Patreon. I'm going to go ahead and put their names right up here.